and bad days.
It's true.
So typically what I do is, again, there is no way to say what you say would be liked or disliked. There's no way to know if they like you back. So yeah, going
Right.
back to that, that's another session
Yeah.
altogether.
I think it
Brought
is.
that up, Kavita, because that makes me. We're going to share what we are doing with our mid-project check-ins now, and I'm excited to, because I think that will help address a little bit of that. We have a few different folks on the call. I'm so excited to see all of you. Hi, everyone.
Hi, hi.
All right, great. Rachel, do you want to take center stage now?
Sure.
And go ahead. Welcome everyone. But before she does that, welcome everyone. I apologize in advance for the way I look right now. I've been on the road for 3 conferences in a row, and I just got back at 1 a.m. yesterday from Boston. So I'm still kind of showing the bruises of that one. So with that apology said, Rachel, it's all yours.
Thanks. So I'm glad to see so many faces pop up all of a sudden, and hope a few more do as well. We will spend the first few minutes sort of orienting ourselves, and then dive into some news and updates. So I'm Rachel Klein. You've gotten a number of emails from me probably. I am now an independent consultant for the past year or so. I live in Seattle, Washington, and I love it here despite the fact that it's gray. And I've done a number of projects for the city of Seattle. I'm working with a regional workforce strategy group. I'm talking to a foundation. I'm talking to somebody about doing some technology project management. So kind of a lot of different things, but it's still very new to me. And I had asked Leona, like, how can I connect with other people? I'd love to know who else is in this group. And we got to talking, and that's how we got to kind of coordinating with all of you. And so I have been part of setting up communities before. I recognize the challenge of doing that virtually. It's always easier when people can, actually sit down across a table and see each other in real time. For now, this is the next best thing, and I'm glad that technology has brought us to a place where we can all talk to each other live and see sort of some animation about each other. So I thought we might just go around and have everybody say who they are, where they are, a little bit about what they're up to. And then just so you have a sense of the rest of the hour that we've planned, we're going to get some updates from Leona because, I talk to her now kind of regularly, and she tells me all this interesting stuff. And I'm like, I don't think people know that. And I think it's helpful to be part of this sort of, network that we're in to kind of have a sense of what our driving organization is up to. And then we'll just see where we go from there. We can dig in on the things that Leona brings up. We have a couple of topics in our minds about things that we might talk about as a group. Understand that people might have to drop off over the hour, and understand that other people might join on. So we just want to be as casual as possible. I have coffee. I know that it's 1 o'clock on the East Coast and it's Friday, so if you want to get any sort of other beverage, you are more than welcome to do that. This should be casual, not serious work. So let's just go around, and whoever wants to pop in, tell us a little bit about yourself.
And Rachel, just one quick thing before we start on that, or even as we start on that, if you want to, in the chat box, just put down those 4 or 5 topics of conversation so people can tell us what they want us to talk about after we finish with the introductions. That might just make things efficient. So
I will do that, yes.
All right, great. So who wants to go first?
I could call on people, but...
I'll go.
Okay, go ahead, Kavita.
Hi everyone, I'm Kavita Metrapalli. I'm based in Washington DC area, actually Fairfax, Virginia. I run a small consulting company, MN Associates Inc. I opened the company in 2004 while I was a graduate student at George Mason University. So we do education, research, and evaluation work across the country. Actually, right now we are in 16 states, including the District of Columbia. I've given it statehood. And we have clients that range from school districts to foundations, 2-year and 4-year colleges. And we mostly work on grants. So the grants that the colleges, the school districts apply, they include us as evaluators. So we do performance data measurement, formative, summative evaluation. We also do data visualization and infographics. So that's the kind of space that we are in. The kind of projects that we evaluate are STEM education, teacher preparation programs, after-school programs, workforce development, arts integration projects, and also, what else? Digital education. So the whole gamut of K through 12, K through 16.
Great, thank you. Who's next?
I'll go next. Hey, everyone. My name is Jason Atwood, Director of Research and Learning with New Schools Venture Fund. I first learned about Catalyst Ed almost maybe about a year ago when a former coworker of mine said that she was applying to join the platform. And when I heard the idea, I thought it was one of the greatest things that once you see, you can't unsee. So I'm just here to kind of listen, be a champion and a supporter, and figure out how I can sort of lend my support with the organization and backing that we have at New Schools Venture Fund.
Thanks, Jason. It looks like all the evaluation folks are, data and evaluation folks are ready to go first. Who's next?
All right, Leon, it's Nona. I'll go. I'm actually sitting here at the client side. I hope it's okay. I have one of my clients and colleagues here, Phil Dunn, who's also sitting with me. He's the CIO of Greenwich Public Schools.
Oh, hi, Phil. Hi, Nona.
Good to meet you.
Good to meet you.
I thought he might be interested in listening. So,
absolutely.
I have 30 years of experience in general management consulting for state and local educational agencies and not-for-profits, including New York City Department of Ed, Chicago Public Schools, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Urban Teacher Center. My favorite project has really been working with Phil for the last 5 years on implementing a digital one-to-one learning environment. It's a 5-year, $13 million project we've given basically all students in grades pre-K to 5 an iPad, and in grades 6 to 12 a Chromebook. And the goal is to really to transform education, both improving student outcomes and then finding faster and better ways to use technology to streamline all the core teacher processes of grading and assessing student work and presenting student work and sharing student work. So we've looked at it kind of from a big process improvement point of view, as well as now a key support in our strategy for implementing personalized learning. We've been doing a randomized control trial here with that. So it's been, my expertise is really strategic planning, project management, program evaluation, organizational change management. And let me have Phil just introduce himself so he's here.
Oh. Hey, folks. I wasn't planning on introducing myself. Phil Dunn, Chief Information Officer for Greenwich Public Schools. Done many things, been a teacher for a couple of years. I'm a public school product, South Bronx native. Worked as a software developer. I've done a number of things in the education vertical, ranging from program evaluations for New York City DOE. I used to run all the New York City DOE HR information systems. And I've spoken too much about myself. I'm just happy to be here.
Phil is a great partner of ours as well. So Phil, excited to have you on the call.
Thanks a lot, Leona.
I can go. This is Allison Ochnuk. I'm on the phone. I've been working in this space for, gosh, I don't know, maybe 15, almost 20 years now. I was in school district work and charter CMO work for a long time, and I'm now actually launching a startup in the very sort of direct to consumer creating and sustaining lifelong learner space, and but I'm self-funding it, and I just love Catalyst. I've actually only done one project with Catalyst where, ironically, I found Rocket Ship Education, which is an organization I've worked with before, but neither of us knew that the other was out there. They didn't know I was doing consulting, and I didn't know they were looking for a project. And I just love Catalyst because selfishly, I don't have to go out and market. My passion project right now is getting my venture launched, but I don't want to have to go raise funds to do it. And so I want to do consulting half of my time so that I can, pay my bills. And I don't want to go out marketing my consulting. And so I love Catalyst because they are, they can connect me with projects. And I've only done one so far with you all, but I just love the marketplace. So thank you for being there for us.
Thanks, Allison.
I'll go. This is Tom. I don't know if you guys can hear me. It didn't light up. There we go. All right. I'm up here in Michigan and spent about 15 years in schools in Detroit, and the last 5 years actually running a CMO called Cornerstone Charter Schools, where we tripled in size and had a lot of fun. And I got a little burned out. I had 5 different boards and authorizer and all the stuff you guys know about. So I started a company a couple of years ago with a guy, and we work really on cultures and helping take teams wherever they are to the next level, using culture as the primary medium. So that says a lot and it says nothing, but I'll leave it at that. We're only about 15% of our work is in schools right now. We're in a lot of nonprofits, a lot of healthcare providers, but we're looking to grow and to serve more schools as we grow.
Great, thank you, Tom. And we've had a few people join in by phone, so just wanted to, since they may not see the chat messages, just wanted to say we're going to welcome first of all, and we're taking a couple of minutes to just introduce ourselves. We're also recording this conversation, if that's all right with all of you. We had a few folks who couldn't make it, and so we're going to just share it out with people who were interested. So that said, who's next?
Hi, this is Carrie Carpenter. I have been on the network for about a year, which is when I launched my company, Pearl Strategy Partners. I've been in the education sector for a number of years and have about 20 years of experience doing strategy and operations projects, mostly along the organizational transformation, so a combination of people, process, systems as organizations are going through large-scale changes. So starting with the strategic planning process, making important decisions for a large change, as well as what is the organizational design, operational design, and processes and policies that need to be in place to be successful, and through the change management and communications projects on that. And I've been really excited to be a part of the network and hopeful that this is partly a way of I've just started consulting in the past year, and so I'm really excited to be in a network of other people who are doing similar things, and to be able to help to grow the practice that I've started. So thank you.
Fantastic. And one thought that occurs to me is we should definitely share out email IDs of people who are on this call, because I'm sure there will be, I can see people say, oh, that sounds interesting, or whatever else it is. So it would be great for people to just continue having conversations separate from all the forums that we create as well.
Or if everybody's in the Slack group, you can just private message people.
That's true. That's true. Great. Who's next?
Go ahead, 617-834-9941.
I was called out. This is Charlie Slagle.
You're on the line with the Catalyst Network.
Yeah. I only joined the call 3 minutes ago. So
sorry. We're just introducing ourselves. This is Rachel. You've got an email.
Yeah. So I'm a veteran school leader, worked in both district schools and charter schools as a principal and CEO. And about 2 years ago, I started working on more flexible projects, in part so I could also help parent my kids. And I've done a little bit of work with Catalyst and doing some work in Indianapolis, particularly around organizing community input on school turnarounds.
And your name is?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Charlie Slagle.
Hi, Charlie. Thanks. Are there a couple more people from the phone that we haven't heard from?
Hi, this is Jen Bar-Weiss. I'm calling in from DC today. I am a former teacher and have led talent work across nonprofit organizations in the ed world and then in the CMO world as well, and have been doing consulting for the last 2 years, mostly working with small charters who are thinking about growing and setting up their talent systems and practices, and coaching talent and CEO teams around kind of growth strategy, and then also working with some ed nonprofits around some culture and evaluation pieces and growth strategy in that world as well.
Great, thanks, Jen. Maybe one more phone caller we haven't heard from, or did we get everyone? Okay. I will move us along then. I thought we would turn it over to Leona for a few minutes to tell us what Catalyst Ed has been up to and what her team has been up to. And then jumping off of there, we have some potential topics of discussion we'd love people to weigh in on. But if there's something burning for you that you want to either problem solve or ask about, we can do that as well. I think I will just read the topic questions so that people on the phone can think about them while Leona is talking, but they are generally sort of just letting the group ask more questions about Catalyst Ed. That might come naturally after Leona talks. Problem solving work that you're doing right now or challenges you're having. Meeting the intersection of those two, like how can Catalyst Ed help us with some of the challenges that we're having. Feedback about the virtual community we've been trying to set up and sort of what you want out of it, what you think we could do differently. And then kind of a bigger topic that Leona's been thinking about a lot is sort of the future of work, diversity, equity, and inclusion, the future of education. How might we are part of that future of work by being this sort of virtual deployment. I think there's more to it than that. I've not heard the presentations about the future of work, but how can we sort of embody that and be ready for what is to come? Maybe Leona can tell us a little bit more about that too in her chatting.
Absolutely. Well, before I get into the Catalyst Ed update, I just wanted to kind of thank Rachel. So Rachel kind of embodies one of the things that I'm super excited about in this network. So she called me up a couple of months ago, and she was like, Leona, you're just wasting your time not leveraging this amazing resource of experts that you have. And I am happy to kind of step forward. Let me send you a proposal on what that might look like. And then she kind of just ran with it. So putting all of this together and for doing this. So in terms of where Catalyst Ed is, it might be helpful, since many of you joined at various points of time in our journey, for me to just kind of, just take a step back and talk a little bit about where we were when we started. So I started Catalyst Ed about 2.5 years ago with this notion that I was seeing a lot of education organizations increasingly looking for expertise, but not knowing how to leverage it and not knowing who is out there. And at the same time, seeing a lot of really great, hi Kushana, seeing a lot of really great individuals as well as organizations that had a lot to offer, but we as a sector were not really leveraging it anywhere as well as we should. And I think what that meant is people didn't have that opportunity to develop mastery and to really impact organizations and kids to the extent that we all can, right? So that's where Catalyst Ed came from. So for 2 years, I put in all of our money in, all of our savings in, and literally every dollar we got in went into building out the operations and building out the team. And then about 6 months ago, we decided to take a big step. We had finally got to the point where we knew what our model looked like, and we had a really good sense of what could be possible if we took this to its logical conclusion. And I had a really strong notion that the only way we could do it was if we turned nonprofit. So about 6 months ago, we started the process of transitioning into becoming a nonprofit. And the way we did that was we shut down the old organization, transferred all assets, started a new nonprofit organization, transferred all assets over from the old one to the new one at a $0 fee. And then, for all practical purposes, we haven't changed. We are still super impact focused. We always were. And we still want to be as fiscally sustainable as possible in the long run. It's always about scale as well. But I think this really helps us get a seat at the table. And I think for the work that we are trying to do, that was really important. So that was a big jump that happened, a big change that happened. And so if anyone wants advice on for-profit versus non-profit structures and everything else, feel free to ping me. I have a lot of opinions and a lot of resources there for you. So that's kind of the first big update, our change in structure. What that also allowed us to do was build out a completely kick-ass board. So our board right now includes Jay Altman of First Line Schools, Aaron Walker of Camelback Ventures, Beth Rabbit of the Learning Accelerator, and Francis Messano of New Schools will be joining in a month. So we are super excited about this powerhouse of a board. And I think these are all leaders who have individually grappled with this question of how do you build out a workforce in education that can help us as a sector innovate, excel, and scale, and how can we do it in a really mindful and thoughtful way, right? So that we are leveraging the most that each person has to offer without thinking of them as, interchangeable widgets. So I'm excited about that board that we are pulling together. And I think the third piece that's been happening now as a result of some of these changes is that we are increasingly getting to a position where we are actually resourced. We're still nowhere as resourced as we should be. We're still a tiny, tiny organization, but at least we have some resources that we can now invest into building out our technology further, building out parts of our program further, and most importantly, getting the word out more. Because I think the more we get the word out, the more opportunities are presented for our experts. There are more opportunities for collaboration. So we are seeing some of that come to fruition, and moving forward, we still see the Catalyst Ed network being the kind of core part of our work. But the two things, but the question we've been asking ourselves is, how do we make sure that that the individual impact that we are seeing in each project, almost all our projects, so 97% of our projects either meet or exceed their goals. And I should show you this chart we have of post-project evaluations. It just looks so amazing, and it just gives me complete confidence that this is the right way we need to go on for the future. But if you look at that, you see a lot of individual points of light, right? And the question we're asking ourselves is, how do we kind of converge all of this into a powerful beam that can actually light the way for others? So as part of that, we see two strategies. One is the expert hub strategy, where we're kind of bringing together more intentional resources and groups of experts to create learning communities. So that's one big piece. The second piece is, and the DEI Expert Hub, which we launched with support from New Schools, was a big part of that. The second is our concierge service. So essentially working with foundations to connect their grantees to technical assistance in a really thoughtful way. So right now, I think a lot of foundations either are super prescriptive, so they will say, here's the grant money, we want you to work with Bain, BCG, whoever it is, right? Or they are on the other extreme where they say, here's the money, figure it out, and just come back and tell us, right? And so I think what we have to offer is a structured process, and B, a really solid, vetted group of experts who can provide the kind of stewardship necessary to move this work forward. So those are kind of two big things that we are doing programmatically. And I think the other big change is related to this expert network. I mean, I take full responsibility of the fact that I have been terrible at communicating with all of you. I have not taken enough opportunities to kind of, leverage what all of you have to offer. And it's been it's been a resource constraint more than anything else. But I think now that we have a bit more of time and resources to think through this, plus as a fully mission aligned organization, we know that's the way forward. We will really be looking to do more things that create more transparency, allow for more collaboration and learning within the expert community. One kind of just philosophical thought here more than anything else. I call myself a reformed socialist or a reformed communist. And a big part of what I believe in is community-owned assets. And so my dream here is that in a few years from now, the community is that right now itself, the community kind of takes on a bigger and bigger role in shaping what all of this looks like. In 5 years from now, you guys kind of run it, and then I can, go on a long vacation somewhere or, do whatever it is. But I think the kind of deeper point here, vacation aside or sabbatical aside or, moving on aside, is around this whole thing of really saying, how can we get the experts here to take on a greater role in thinking about what A, their work looks like moving forward, and B, the kind of supports and assets that an organization like Catalyst Ed can provide them so that they can be even more impactful and feel better about their work. So, so that said, I think, and then there are a couple of smaller improvements and innovations that we're working on. I'm not going to go into it right now because I do want to see what people are interested in speaking about, but I will commit to sending out an email or an update through Slack, Rachel, through Slack, on what are some of the things we're working on, whether that's through our mid-project check-ins, what that looks like. We've started this new form of before people submit proposals for projects over 20,000, having the project sponsor speak with interested experts on a Zoom call. That's been super successful. So we're trying out a few different things. So we'll make sure we send out an email or through Slack. We'll let everyone know what we're working on there. So let me pause here. Happy to take questions, or if you have specific things that you'd prefer that we speak about, I'm more than happy to kind of take the conversation in that direction. So Rachel, do you want to ask a quick, just kind of like do a run through of the 5 things that we had talked about, and then we can see if people have what to talk about.
Let me just start with, does anybody want to ask anything about what Leona just said? Guessing that's a no.
Any reactions? Because I would love to just kind of like say, does this resonate? Does something feel off? So any kind of like quick reactions. I do want this to be a conversation. So, I see a hand going up there. Kavita, go for it.
Well, thank you so much, actually, for the introduction, and also to give us a background on what Catalyst Ed is all about. We've had the good fortune of working with Leona and team on one project very recently. And, 2 or 3 times before this also, Leona was kind enough to send us a few solicitations. One of them we actually interviewed, but we were not selected. And 2 others we thought were not very suitable for us. But I really appreciate the way Leona and team actually brings these projects, which are not way off, but they are really catering to what the kind of work that we do. So it becomes very easy. Either it's a yes or a no for us. We don't have to do too much back and forth. And I really, really appreciate that, because most of the time that we work with the clients or other people, the qualifications or the scope of work is not clear. But the solicitations that have come through from Catalyst Ed have been very clear. Sometimes the clients are not clear. They expect something else, and that's nothing to do with, Catalyst Ed's or our understanding of work. That's a different thing. But I appreciate the way that you are really running this operation, and I also appreciate your follow through and the process that you're following in terms of check-ins. Nobody does that unless, something bad happens and then they feel the need to check in and then they complain. So that's my 2 cents about, the operation that you're running. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. The question I do have is that is there any way for you to predict or just kind of tell us how many projects are generally in the pipeline in terms of, just for our understanding?
Absolutely. So at this point of time, we have about 20 different projects at various stages in the pipeline, as in not like matched yet, but in various stages of the pipeline. That includes, however, Catalyst Ed, the DEI Expert Hub, and the after school has just one. And that pipeline varies over time. In general, the highest volume is in August, September, October, November. And really peaking in September, October, and then likewise peaking in February and March. And I'm sure those of you who work with schools and nonprofits, that resonates with you. The other thing I wanted to also say is that we So 2 points that just come to mind. One of the things we've been talking about, so right now, the projects that we share out, we send out by email, but folks don't have a visibility into what other projects are out there. So one of the things that are looking to do, and we'll probably do it starting next month, is where we will post every single project on Slack, but we will still continue to send emails out to folks about projects that are a good fit for them. And I think that way we are hoping that we can have that balance between sharing out opportunities more broadly, but then also not expect. I mean, I know if I had to go to some place to access opportunities, I would never look at it. So I'm still very much an email person, which ages me, but it is what it is. So we'll continue sending out the email updates, but I see us using Slack to just share out project opportunities with the broader group as a whole. And I think it'll just give folks a sense of what is the sector thinking about right now, right? What are the kind of challenges that leaders are grappling with? And that might also help you think about how you might want to position yourself or people that you might want to partner with. The second kind of thought that comes to mind based on just what Kavita was outlining here, we've been, one of the things we notice in the expert network is that some people reach out and ask questions or ask for help, and we are happy to provide that. And there are others who are either reluctant or are unsure about whether they can even do that. So, in Kavita's specific example with this one client that she was working on, where the client halfway through had a difference of opinion on what she thought would be there. I was happy to kind of speak with Kavita as well as the client, and then figure out, get it to a place where everyone now feels like they came to a good point of closure, right? And similarly, we keep seeing questions around things like, I'm not getting the data I was promised, or, I have clear timelines that the client is not adhering to, or whatever else, right? I'm more than happy to respond when I can. I'm usually pretty prompt about responding, unless I am in a conference, in which case all bets are off. But I also hope that people will use the Slack channel for some of these questions, so that over a period of time, we're also kind of building out a body of work and a body of great ideas on what are some of the typical challenges that folks are facing, either whether it's at a project level, kind of, this kind of very granular stuff, tactical stuff that we're talking about, or even more broadly, things like, I'm a single independent consultant. I sometimes get projects that are, more than I can handle. How do I scale my business, right? So would love to kind of continue to hear from all of you, and let's use the Slack channel for that. So we have a record of communications that we can then rely back on when needed. So I'm going to pause here. Any other kind of questions or thoughts?
Hi, this is Carrie. I actually had a question about this. I'm unfamiliar with Slack. I haven't used it that much. Is there a way for people to share profiles, or a way for us to just see who is on the community? Either one for just like seeking out people as we are looking to build out projects that we have, or just looking to get exposed to other projects.
So I'll jump in there. So the way I can see who's on it, if you go to like the general channel and you just click on it, and right under general, there's like some fine print text. There's like a body icon, and then it says 83. Everybody who's in the network is in the general room. And so you can at least click on that 83 and see all the people. And granted, it's just first name. Some people even put initials, so you can't see very much information about them. But that's where I'm trying to encourage everybody to post in introductions, which not everybody has done, that's for sure. But over time, I hope people will, and we will continue to encourage that. But you can then search introductions. You can search the whole thing over there on the right at the very top. And so if you see somebody in the list and then you want to search in introductions, or you want to search for something like culture to see if other people have that as like a thing that they do, you can try to do that. I posted my LinkedIn profile trying to get other people to do the same. you might have seen my post yesterday. LinkedIn, the advantage of LinkedIn is that it gives you automatic access to everybody's profile. The significant disadvantages are that it like just doesn't work as a group network communication platform. Like we weren't getting notifications, it wasn't posting messages timely. But if we can have sort of an access to everybody's LinkedIn profile or their professional website, then we have a better sense of who they are. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
And Carrie, what I would suggest is, I think you're on Slack, but if not, you should get on Slack. Oh, yes, you are on Slack. Yes. I really would encourage you to add on your little profile or bio in the introductions. So that's, I think, one clear action for everyone. And then the second thing which is an action for us is, we probably need to do a little tutorial on how to use Slack, and I'll have Laurel put that together. It could just be a little PDF document. And I think the third thing, which, for the DEI Expert Hub, we just put together a directory. And so that might be something that we pull together for this larger network as well. And I think so right now the Catalyst Ed network has about 470 odd individuals. And as you can see, only 80 odd are on the Slack channel. And so I think the larger directory might allow us to add to that. Part of the reason why I haven't kind of automatically gone into the directory already, although we've thought about this right from the beginning, is because I don't want this to be a directory. I mean, there are lots of directories in education, and I think we run the risk of then people saying, oh, this is just a directory of names, right? So what I'd love to see is kind of the community kind of taking on a little bit more, and maybe people using forums like this Zoom call to interact with each other, connect with each other, so that we are more than just a bunch of names. And then have the directory kind of be a more easily accessible way of getting information, but then already having relationships to kind of bind us together. So I hope that makes sense.
What do you all think about that? I like the idea of a directory. Maybe you have to join the Slack community to get in the directory.
Maybe.
Maybe we just we can create it as a Google Doc. I can pull everybody's introductions.
I think the only challenge I have is like the rest of us, I think we have multiple modes of communication these days. We have LinkedIn, then we have a Twitter feed, then we have a Google Doc, then something or the other. So I think the challenge is just keeping up. It's not having access to, and also, the fear of losing out. I mean, I'm like, what if I forget there's something really critical on Slack and I don't get to that place? So I would say have emails and have a backup so that I know that if I'm not checking Slack on a regular basis, that I can still rely on emails. That's my only question/concern.
Go ahead. 617, I think that was.
No, it wasn't 617.
Oh, was it?
I totally agree. I was going to ask a question actually. So a couple times when we set this up, I pinged like @channel. When I did that, did you get an email that I had posted on there or not?
No, I
didn't.
Okay. I think I did.
Okay. I think that therefore it depends on your notification settings. Yeah.
So I think what we need to do is figure out how Carrie set up her notification settings so that the rest of us can do that as well. But we'll figure it out, and we'll have Laurel send out something to folks. Any other kind of questions or thoughts, or if there are specific things that you want us to talk about in the last 20 minutes, we are happy to jump into that as well. But any other questions before that?
This is Charlie, aka 617.
Hi, 617.
Tell me, would you say a little bit about how projects come to you all? How do you know about them? Like, are people reaching out specifically to Catalyst?
Yeah, no, great question. So I think there are a few different sources by which people reach us. So from the beginning, the large majority of projects have reached us through word of mouth. So people hearing about us from their peers or their colleagues and saying, and you know how it works with education, right? Someone's like, oh, I have a project, I don't know who's out there. And then they reach out to a friend or an education leader who says, you guys should try out Catalyst Ed. So that word of mouth has been the biggest source of our projects. The second big source of our projects, especially now, has been through foundations. So as foundations have used our services, and we've had several foundations now that have leveraged Catalyst Ed for their own projects, these foundations are now saying, let's make this available as a resource to our grantees. So that's been the second big source of projects for us. And I see Michelle has joined, I think. Hi, Michelle. And then I think the third kind of source of our projects has been things like people just doing Google searches, right? So we don't get too many like that, but every once in a while there are a couple of different ones that come through. Kind of taking a step back though, because that's kind of the past, right? And the past, and the reason I kind of want to make a distinction between our past and the future in a sense is that our past was a zero resource past, right? It was literally us kind of making this work through sheer force of will, and kind of like just trying to do the, like, pound the pavement and get it done. I think we are now in a place where I really see that folks are getting what we are trying to do and are kind of like, this makes sense in ways that we hadn't thought of earlier, right? And so moving forward, the kinds of things that I see us doing more of, things like creating content that then becomes a way for folks to say, oh, that content's interesting, that has a really unique point of view about this expertise in the sector. And so is there a way for us to then leverage Catalyst Ed for our specific needs? So more content generation. And that includes things like conferences and stuff like that. And then I think the second one is just partnerships with organizations that sit at the center of networks themselves. So we see a lot of entities ranging from the Texas Education Agency to various harbor masters to associations and things like that are all kind of trying to build out their own little mini expert lists. And most of the time it's an Excel sheet somewhere, or there is an assistant with a set of names somewhere, right? So I think there's a real opportunity for us to say, we can get this done systematically. We can make sure that by pooling in information, we are all kind of learning from our experiences and building on what each other is doing. And there is a way for us, because of the technology and the process and everything else that we're investing in, to do this way more cheaply than what others are doing. I mean, right now we are literally 2 full-time people. That's it, right? And we do everything from technology development to communication to project scoping to client and expert handholding. We do everything in-house, right? And so I think as we grow out our own team and our own capacities, one of the things we want to do is still be super productive, so that we as an intermediary organization, because face it, that's what we are not sucking up resources from the rest of the sector, but are still in a position where we are offering a lot. And through what we offer, we are in a position where people understand what we do and recognize the value that we offer. So I hope all of that made sense, Charlie, because I feel like I got onto a little bit of a, on the stage performance out there, but that gives you a sense of what I'm thinking of.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any other questions for Leona? If not, I have a question for everybody.
Yeah, I have a whole bunch of questions for everyone.
Okay, I want to ask, so we're probably a little short on time to dig into a whole nother topic, but I want to ask, are there other topics you want us to focus on as a particular conference call topic? Like, is there something you want to learn more about or learn from other people in the network that would, be a good use of your time to get back on a conference call?
And if I could just do an add-on question to that, Rachel, I would love to have you all reflect on what made you join this call, right? And so was there something that you were hoping we would talk about that we haven't talked about? That's one thought. And then moving forward, I would love for folks to be more kind of engaged, not necessarily with Catalyst Ed, but at the very least with each other, right? So if you have any thoughts on that, that would be amazing as well.
Leona, it's Nona. The reason, by the way, this is the whole, I think your organization is wonderful. So thank you for connecting us and doing it so professionally and being so responsive. And the Slack community is wonderful. So everything you do is always first rate. So thank you for that. The reason I joined the call was really to understand, the other expertise areas that are out there in K-12 and improving education, and potentially to partner with them on different projects. I think what might be helpful is if you picked a topic like personalization of learning or organizational change management or strategy, and then the people that join, you could go around and each person could say what are some of the results that they've achieved. Like the gentleman who talked about improving culture, and that was his lever. I would be fascinated to kind of hear more about some of what he's found, best practices, the results he's had for his clients, and then I would know how I could potential projects, how I could work with him. Or the person, speaking about research and evaluation, what are some of her, best projects? How has she helped clients? So those are the kind of things that I think would be helpful for me.
That's a really great idea, Nona. And I mean, I think we can, just do monthly calls, which are optional, which are focused on different topics. And that way people who are working on that area can add on, and then we can maybe layer on Slack on top of that. So if we do a research and evaluation focused, focus month, then we can have a separate channel kind of dedicated to that. The other kind of thought that also came to me as you were saying this, Nona, is SERPI just reached out to us because that's SERPI is the research organization out of University of Washington, and they're probably one of the top research and evaluation organizations that are out there right now. One of the things they talked about was how, as they create resources and toolkits, one of the challenges they're facing being nobody uses them, right? And so them wanting to know if they could if they could share out those resources with this network, and maybe like take folks through how they see it being used, maybe get some feedback on it. So that could be the other way in which I could see it being could see us kind of addressing the specific point that you raised. But thank you for sharing that.
That's a great idea. The CBRA, I think that would be great.
So,
hey, Leona, it's Kashana Palmer jumping on. How are you guys?
Kashana, since you came in slightly later, do you mind also giving a quick intro to yourself?
Oh, absolutely. Let's see if my camera, I think I'm sitting in the dark, which is why I turned my video off. Hey, y'all. I'm Kashana Palmer. I am the sole consultant at Kashana & Co. for now, and I mainly do leadership and management training and consulting for high-performing organizations, specifically focused on getting middle managers to step up into C-suite roles in their sort of tactical and day-to-day work, and then looking at how strategy influences how we do tactical management in organizations. I didn't always start out that way. I'm a recovering fundraiser. And so a lot of my work in my earlier days of my practice were around doing like strategic planning and that kind of thing. And I'm a board source certified trainer and also a master trainer for AFP. So a lot of my work is in sort of like the training space. And so for me, the challenge has been to try to understand how to scope the proposals well. So I actually have not landed any of the roles yet, which is fine, but it sort of felt like I was shooting in the dark, even though I watched the webinar that you did. It was awesome, like 50 million times. I think I followed instructions. So I think at this point, what I want to start to understand, particularly on monthly calls, are just sort of how folks' bodies of expertise in their wheelhouse show up in how they present their work and how they're able to continue to iterate as they're working with different clients, and then also to be able to figure out how to transform my work, which I do really, really well live and have lots of great modules and that kind of stuff, how that translates to paper when I'm actually presenting that to clients for the first time, because almost all of my business is by referral. And so it'd be helpful to sort of understand that. And I joined the call today because I wanted to put faces to names for everybody, because I am in the Slack. Yeah.
So here's, first of all, thanks so much for sharing that, Kishana. So first of all, let me start off by acknowledging the limits of the RFP process, right? I mean, I think that's what you spoke to. How do you convert what's a real live person and all of the things that you bring in to what's really a page or 2 pages of proposal, right? And how do you kind of make sure that's as compelling as possible? So there are kind of 3 thoughts I have related to that. So first of all, I think we can definitely pull together a webinar or a Zoom call focused on best practices in proposal development. And, you know, I will brag a little bit here, but we've had a few cases where we had consultants, you know, Kishan, I just spoke a little bit earlier about how some consultants would reach out and say, I need help. And we had 2 consultants reach out and say, you know, I'm not getting any projects, what's going wrong? And then I'd kind of like quickly look through their proposals and then give them like, you know, 5 minutes of feedback, and they'd land the very next project, right? And I'm like, yes, I did it. Which is not to say it's all about me. It was really all about the consultants. But what I'm trying to say is that there are some best practices on responding to proposals that we can absolutely share back. So that's one part. The second part is, again, I'm wondering if there are ways. It's one thing to hear a best practice, and it's a completely different thing to have someone give you feedback on whether what you've pulled together is aligned with that best practice, right? Does it resonate? Is something missing out? And so we are happy to do it. But as I said, you know, our resources are limited, and we've almost been happy that not too many people have asked. I wonder if there's a way for us to use the community of experts to provide that feedback, right? Where people can say, this is what my 1-pager says is all about. Do folks want to give us some quick feedback on, you know, what's missing, what's not resonating, etc. right? So I think that's kind of the second thought I have, using the Slack platform to be able to have this kind of very targeted feedback and support from the expert community to itself. And I think the third thought I have, and this has been something that I've been internally struggling with, which is just recognizing the inherent limitations of the RFP model, saying, are there ways for us to, over a period of time, change things around or add in components that might make up for some of those deficiencies, right? And it's not going to be relevant for all projects. So if it's a 150K project management for a highly complex project, you will still need to do an RFP. But there are some projects, especially in areas like leadership development, where I think maybe a quick video where coaches say, you know, hi, this is who I am, and this is what we're trying to do, might actually work quite well. So we're thinking about it, and I think the constraints that are there in my mind are partly technology, but I think partly also the whole question of bias, right? We've had cases where in some of our earlier projects, we provided less information. And what we found is that in those cases, the organizations would just go to the best known consultant or the consultant with the most big names attached to them. I think what I love about the way our process works right now is that we've really seen a lot of folks who are not on the national radar, who don't have a lot of big name experiences attached to them, being selected for projects and really shining in those projects. So I want to make sure that whichever way we go down is something that kind of minimizes our inherent human tendency to just make the easiest decision possible, but gives folks an opportunity to really shine. So those are just 3 thoughts for us to think about. I think thought 1 and 2 is something we can operationalize immediately. Thought 3 is something that I would love ideas from everyone about.
thank you for that. I appreciate that. And I'm happy to plug in on Thought 3. A lot of the work I do, particularly around video content, has landed really well. And I've started to address a lot of things around inherent bias, particularly when you can see who you're talking to, but also for folks who are in the network who is a little bit more gun shy on what to do on camera. I'm happy to jump in and help. And so I'm happy to trade knowledge. It's an area that I love and shine in. And so definitely willing when you're ready to step into that work in terms of thought partnering to be able to do that.
Absolutely. And so one kind of thought I'll say here is, again, going back to how Rachel and I started working together. When she first reached out and said, you should do this, I was like, I know I need to do this. I don't think I'm ready to do it yet for whatever reason, right? And she was like, just go for it. And I thought about it, then I was like, okay, let's go for it. I'm not sure if I'm ready for it. I tend to be someone who kind of thinks through every element of stuff, and this felt like a really big move. And I'm super excited with how it's working out. So Kishana and everyone else who's on the call, if you feel super strongly about something, like I'm actually totally okay with you picking up the phone, exactly like Rachel did, and saying, we need to do this. I'm happy to do some of the thinking, but I need Catalyst Ed to do all of this, right? So, so I'm not kind of passing on responsibility, but just wanted to throw that out there. Tom, go for it. You have 2 minutes.
I do. I have 1 minute, actually. So I joined mostly because you have no enthusiasm for what you do, Leona. So that's too bad. It's infectious. So keep up the good work. And I just wanted to support, I think it was Nona maybe's idea of, getting more specific, because we want to cast a broad net here and sort of bring people in, but that actually can cut both ways. I think the more specific you can be, the more sort of targeted, and maybe even 30 minutes versus an hour, you're just going to get a lot more participation, I think, in the future. And don't commit to monthly meetings either, because nobody wants another meeting. I would like say, this is the specific topic we're covering this specific time. For those that want to join, I think you might get more engagement, more energy that way. So I'll stop talking.
All great ideas, Tom. And given your work with leadership coaching and helping organizations think through questions like this, I can totally see where that's coming from. So thank you for that. Rachel, do you want to wrap up? And then I want to say a big thank you to everyone here.
Yeah, I also want to say a big thank you to everyone here. I love all the suggestions. I see them all as very actionable, and several of them I can help Leona take action on and take some action myself. Again, I just posted in the chat, but if there's anything else that you think we could do, specific topics are also helpful. I do see that we can line something up and you can say, yep, July is interesting to me, August is not, I'll put it on my calendar. Anything else, you can direct message me on Slack. You have my email. You can post in the chat for another few minutes. Just keep getting in touch with us, ask some questions. I also want to say, Kishana, really appreciate your candor. I too have not gotten any of the proposals I only bid on one, but I didn't get it either. And I had some questions, and so would love a lot of that too. So just thank you everyone for your time. Thanks, Leona, for sharing so much and being willing to take this time, and also to put so much time into the community, because you have done a lot of work and a lot of thinking about it as well.
Well, thanks for that, Rachel. And thank you all for making the time to be here today. Truly appreciated. And look out for some next steps and updates through Slack. All right, take care.
Have
Bye.
a great weekend, everyone.
Enjoy the weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Rachel, that was a lot of fun. Oh, wait, she's gone.